Shalom. This week I'm filming my Dvar Torah from the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library. I thought this was an apropos place because of the topic that I'd like to discuss from this week's Sedra Vayera. The Sedra concentrates on many interesting stories and some of the foundations of our religion, really. But I'd like to concentrate on something interesting, and I'd like to introduce it with a funny line from President Reagan. In the 1984 presidential debates, President Reagan, debating against Walter Mondale, Jimmy Carter's vice president, said the following, and this is an interesting quote. He said, "I promise, as part of my campaign, not to bring up age." President Reagan obviously was quite elderly at the time, in his mid-70s, and people thought that this would be something of an issue of concern. Truth is, they were probably right, and said, "I won't bring up my opponent's youth and his inexperience." President Reagan obviously making light of a pretty serious issue, but it highlighted the issues of age and ability, and that's what I'd like to focus on in this Dvar Torah. We tend to think that old people have really, that there's no hope of potential for accomplishment as they get older. And I'd like to say that the Torah's viewpoint is quite the opposite, in fact. The Torah sees hope not just in the middle age, which is where nowadays we seem to think that people are either too young or too old to accomplish, and it's only the middle age that can really accomplish. But the Torah sees the ability and the potential to accomplish with both the old and the young. And I'd like to prove it from a pasuk in this week's Sedra that talks about Moshe's age and Aaron's age, and a comment up by the Sforno. Science says that the body breaks down and mental ability slows down with age, but that's obviously a generalization and not completely true of everyone, or even, in fact, the majority. What I'd like to say is that the old have experience. They have experience, and they also have patience. They're no longer hot-headed. They don't see every single thing as an emergency. The aged and the more senior amongst us are able to take a step back, see things in a greater context than the young, and especially the middle-aged. This week's Sedra has an interesting pasuk. It says that Moshe was 80 and Aaron was 83. The pasuk, if you look at it in the context of the parsha, seems to have absolutely nothing to do with what's going on, and seems to be completely extraneous. In fact, this bothers both the Ibn Ezra and the Sforno in this week's Sedra as to why Hashem had to go out and list their ages. And the Sforno wanted everybody to know, says Hashem wanted everybody to know that even at the age of 80, the Moshe Rabbeinu was able to accomplish so much. In fact, in Pirkei Avos it says that with 80 comes a special strength. We must value the old. We must realize that the Torah tells us that Moshe was 80 years old because it was showing us that even one that's advanced and one that's senior has a potential to accomplish a tremendous amount. That's a message from this week's Sedra, and it's an important message. Looking at what Moshe accomplished between the ages of 80 and 120, it's truly remarkable. Something that we might have said, well, Moshe already was at the end of his life. He had just rejoined his people. What could we really expect of him? And what he was able to accomplish is tremendous. The reason why I'm filming this at the Jimmy Carter Presidential Library is because President Carter, although we might not agree with just about anything he's doing in his old age, he is accomplishing a tremendous amount. And that's something that must be respected, and something that we must value the elderly. And for those of us that are aged and those of us that are senior, we too must realize how much we still can accomplish and how much we really have the responsibility to accomplish, both within our families and the community as a whole. Shabbat Shalom.